Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Exit Stage Left. I am your host, Neethi Bali, and we are broadcasting live from the Faith Church here on North Carolina, and we are a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. Y'all, this is not a marketing channel or a promotional channel. We're shining a light on knowledge that has been hidden from you, and we're sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. Today, I am joined by Tammy Healy, the host of the American State Assembly's podcast and co-leader of the Outreach Think Tank. Welcome, Tammy. I'm so excited that we were able to take a break last week. I hope you were able to enjoy a little time off.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and it's always a pleasure to come on. Just us two girls or women discussing, impromptu topics. Yes, and I did have a great week off. In fact, this week is more of a week off for me too, because my kids are on break. So, it's a little bit more. We're pressing really hard with yard work. We've got a lot of spring cleanup over here, so it's a lot of work. But it's kind of what I've been doing in between. So what about you? I know you took some time off and you visited one of my absolute favorite places, and that is the shore. So how was that for you?
Oh my goodness. It was fantastic. We went onto this island right off of Florida and Georgia, and it was, amazing. I actually didn't realize that it was spring break week on Florida, or I guess these couple of weeks are. And because, it was her born day. It was her 18th born day. So it was just, I really was appreciating the time to be with her, and that she even was excited to spend it with us and with me, like that. And we had a great week. I will admit it's like hard to turn myself back on, but like I've been back. We came back. We had an outreach event here on Saturday. But then we also enjoyed our family on Sunday. Everybody still celebrates Easter. I just appreciate the opportunities to gather with the family, because I find that a lot of people just aren't gathering with their family, post-COVID, because they've really allowed the corporatocracy to destroy their structure, their family structure, and just everything. And it was interesting. My nephews were both there, and the boys were having a conversation because their friends are starting to get married. And there was one of their friends that was just recently engaged, and they were making jokes because they shared a photo from before the engagement and put it out with their family holiday card, to announce the engagement. And so the boys were having a hard time with it. And they were like, we don't know why the parents decided to do that and announce it and use a photo from before their engagement. I go, well, they probably just needed a photo with all of them together. I don't know that it mattered when they took the photo, but they wanted to make the announcement. And they said, well, why would the parents make the announcement? They should have been making their own engagement announcement. And so then we got into this conversation about provenance. And I said, well, what should have happened is the grandparents should have made the announcement. I said, it never should have been them announcing their own engagement. It would have been whoever the oldest patriarch is who would have made the announcement. And this was completely foreign to them, because at this point, they just think, oh, we just, do whatever we want to do. And we, because they're following the television and the movies and the media. And so then we got into this interesting conversation of provenance. And my mom, she was talking about, oh yeah, on India, how everybody, it's always the elders who make these announcements. And we started talking about, when you're born, the announcement that goes into the papers, and, why, and what is it about? And I started getting a little bit into a lawful conversation from that, and they were listening for a couple of minutes before everybody's eyes started rolling back into their head. And then I had to I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that's about all they could take, about it. But
yeah, you gauged it.
it's fascinating, that our folks who know that there's that they want to do things a certain way. Like my mom knows she wants it to be done a certain way, and she's like, well, when you guys get ready to get married, I would make an announcement, because you're my grandchildren, and she's saying her perspective on it. And but she won't she goes, I don't know what this provenance is that Neethi keeps going on about. And I was like, okay, she's kind of stuck in this ritual thing. And this goes back to religion. It's a very religious ritual kind of thing that she's caught up in. And I'm trying to, bring her back out towards law, but also the spirituality and the law of the universe, right?
Yep.
Because these laws are not enforced by man. These laws are enforced by the balance of nature.
Correct. It's nature's laws and the laws of God, right?
Right. There's so many folks that will have a major argument about, okay, why do you keep going back to this religion or that religion or the Bible, or only Christianity manages, is the only one. And I'm like, okay, religion is all corporate. So we can just go ahead and drop that. And then history, we can try to find as much documentation as we can that
Yeah,
can
I
go back.
absolutely loved the conversation that you and Deborah Ann had last week. And I gotta love Chase Hughes. He's putting out a lot of great material. And so I did see that one already about religions, but I love how he showed the evidence of similar things that are in all the different religions Bibles, right? That they're basically
Right.
speaking the same stuff. So, but you know, uh, I think that for us this week, there's some really great topics for us to get into, and I think that when we were trying to discuss, this morning, like what do we want to talk about, and for me, I think it would be really helpful to our assemblies to discuss how do we keep our energy up, how do we keep our eye on the prize and keep moving forward in a world that is so chaotic. There's so much chaos. And we know with chaos and confusion, all of that is just like low vibration frequency. And we know that. So I consider myself a child of light, like the light bearer, and keeping my energy up, keeping my frequency up. When I find at times that the world is just so heavy, and that so many people seem lost and confused, I try to just tune out of that. Whether it be I stop going on social media, stop, you know, um, I don't watch TV, but like, if my kid has a baseball game on, like they always, those ads keep going and commercials come on. And so it's kind of hard not to listen to that. But I just disconnect from those things and get back to basic stuff. But I think it's really important for us to talk about what that looks like, not just personally, like in our personal lives. How do we keep our vibration high? But what does that look like in our assemblies? Because I also see a lot of people very easily get distracted, and have all these reasons of why they can't take on a position, why they can't commit to something, something else is more important, or they don't have the time, they don't have the skill sets. And a reason, something that just dawned on me recently, is that there are a bulk of the people that have status corrected and they don't ever get involved in the government because I think they're still trying to figure out, if I put all my time and energy and resources into this assembly, am I going to reap the rewards? Am I going to see the benefits of my work? And then they start questioning themselves, is this um is this going to be the best investment on my, return on my investment? If I'm going to invest my time, my energy, my money, my resources to doing this, and I may not, there's no guarantees that I may not see the rewards of my work. Do I really want to put my time, energy, and resources if I'm not going to get the benefit, if I'm not going to be able to see the benefit of it? That to me is probably one of the biggest challenges that our assemblies face today. And I'd like for us to talk about that. I think that this is really important, especially coming off of the heels of, in the Christian world, it's the resurrection, right? Resurrection Day. And what Yeshua, everybody knows him as Jesus Christ, what his teachings were, right? Because it's one thing to know the word and to read the Bible and be so committed to being a scholar of the Bible, but it's not good enough to just know those teachings. You have to live out the word. And this is what I feel a lot of our assemblies struggle with. What does that look like? And to me,
May I?
Yeah.
I'm making notes while you're talking. I think one of the big things that, man, Tammy, the corporatocracy has just really done a phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
so there is so much to break out of,
Yes.
and it's like we keep hearing these conversations and we hear all this frustration around just like global or whatever, right? The bank.
Anything. Yeah. Anything. Because it's
just
all new to us.
right.
It's all new. It's never been done before.
You know what, guys? The thing that you need to really fully, I just literally had this conversation yesterday with an assembly member, with a couple of them actually, because one of the gentlemen was trying to explain to the other gentleman, he's like, he called me on three-way and he's like, hey, can you help shed some light on this? I said, okay, guys, first of all, what we're doing is a philanthropic business. Okay. It's philanthropic. Why? Because we're all volunteers. The way that the American government works is that it's not a capitalistic business. That's the corporatocracy. Okay. The corporatocracy has been capitalizing on living men since Babylon. Okay.
Yep.
Now there's this huge argument about when was that. Okay.
Right.
I'm not going to get into that discussion.
Right.
I don't care. I wasn't alive. Okay. So long time ago, whenever it was, doesn't matter. But whenever it was before all the religions. It was before all the religions, because corporatocracy is who created religion, which is all corporate.
Yep.
So I don't care what your religious faith is. The first thing you have to mourn and reconcile is that it was all made up by somebody who wanted to capitalize on you
and control
you. They wanted you to believe that. Okay, I just saw one of these videos this morning. I had to delete it because it was on my feed. It's amongst all of the declared people. Tammy, you and I literally were just talking about how do people know how to declare themselves as alive, how to come and declare themselves and do all those things and know this. And then they want to come here and then they want to share some nonsense. This is what somebody shared. They shared this speech. It was a video, okay? And in the video, it was saying something about God is, before he builds you, he has to break you. And then it goes on and on about how your suffering is there for you to get better. No, the hell it's not, okay? Let me just tell you something. Our Creator loves you so much. You are born worthy beyond belief. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to build anything. You don't have to prove anything at all. When they shared that, I was like, dude, this is the
That's the double
problem.
speak. That's the confusion.
This
That's
is the
the
problem.
yeah, this
This
is the
is the problem.
this
And
is
then
the
they
infiltration of what's true, right? Like this is the infiltration
Mhm.
because the false matrix put all this confusion
Religion.
and yeah, and just all ways to enslave us.
That religious piece, friends, is a psychological manipulation to guilt you into whatever they want to do. So they're the way that they operate is guilt, bribery, you
Shame,
know, huh?
shame.
Shame. Because what they this is hello, how do the Freemasons work, y'all? What they do is they make the guy, whoever it is that they want to control, commit a crime. What is the crime? It's normally some sexual perversion,
Yep,
something so disgusting, okay, that they can use it to shame them with, okay? If if they didn't have that, or if that guy was like, oh, I messed up, I done messed up, and if he'd have just come out and said, I did it, shame on me, shame, shame, and just kept moving. Oh, they got me. I fell for it. They tricked me.
right.
If they would just do that, they could just get out of it immediately. No, millions of people have to die behind this. Okay.
Right. Well, because they're working so hard to cover up the mistake, and
When you lie,
yeah,
there is no, so they wanted to show in this video also that the tipping of the scales is justice. This is bullshit, okay? The way the universe works is this way, okay? If you do something good, bloop, 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 it comes back as good. If you do something bad, bloop, 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 it's a boomerang effect. It
yeah.
comes back as
And some people call that karma, and other
it
people, like in the
mm.
Christian religion, say you reap what you sow.
I mean, call it whatever you want. It is, what's happening is when you do something good, the universe goes, yay. And when you do something not, harmful, when you cause harm, whether you hurt somebody's feelings or you literally, cause physical harm or you break somebody's something or whatever, then it comes back at you. Okay. And so it's like, boop, try again. Now, there is no God or creator going, you are so bad.
Right.
No, that's not what's happening. It's like, boom, try again. What are you doing? Don't do that again. No, don't do
It's like
that.
it's like parents with their children, right? Like when they do
Mhm.
something bad, you course correct them. You explain to them why it was bad, why they don't
Okay,
want to do that,
Tammy,
and then
some
they
people,
they're
some
supposed to
people,
course correct.
but some people don't know that. Like Anna was saying yesterday, her mom abused her because she didn't know any better because that was how she was treated. Okay. And so there's an entire world of people right now who, when your baby does something, the only thing
You
you
talk
know
about
to do.
spankings,
Yeah, well, it's not about just spanking them. You could smack them, or you could treat them like garbage. You can diminish them with your words. You can
right?
do so many other things. It's not always that you physically touch them, you know?
Right.
Yes, you could
You're talking about
sodomize
all
them
of you.
and do it.
Gotcha.
Right. You could do anything, but all of these things are, this is, we do it because somebody did it. Somebody made us believe it. Like I know my mom thinks, for example, that you're just supposed to listen to her because she's the mom. Okay. But if we're intelligent, we're going to listen to our progeny and learn from them. And we're also going to share with them what we know. And we're going to collaborate with them because there is a new stream of knowledge and there's an old stream of knowledge. And guess what? When we put our streams together, it just becomes a better stream of knowledge. Okay. And
Yeah,
so,
and I think too, touching on that a bit, Neethi, is that what it boils down to is trust, right? Trusting your mom and dad that they do have this level of knowledge that you don't have because they're older and they're more experienced. They've been around a while. It has nothing to do with an intelligence level, more of an experience level. And that as um, as sons and daughters, we are to revere and respect the elderly for their wisdom. That's really historically what we were to do. And I think that that's also something that is lost in our society today. And I sent you an email. I tried to share it in the chat. It's a document that we
I'm
used.
pulling it up. I'm working on it right now. I'm trying to get it ready for you. So go ahead and frame around it, and while I try to pull it up.
So, as we were doing new member orientation in our assembly, um, it became apparent that, people naturally, including myself, when you're coming out of the matrix and you've realized that you've been lied to on so many fronts in your life, that it's hard to trust anything. And so, we wanted to create this document. We discussed it in our assembly, but this is a document that's part of our new member orientation, and it's building and fostering trust amongst our assembly members. And I thought that we could just review this together.
I'm trying to
So-
make it big enough, but I think it's going to be too big. Hang on.
Yeah, I can see this. That's perfect right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So building trust involves being consistent, honest, and showing genuine care for others. It requires demonstrating reliability through your actions and maintaining open communication over time. That's a big one, I think, is the communication and consistency. And, we've been talking about, stop your lies, even the smallest of lies, and just, show up honest and have a genuine care for others. I've heard people say, oh, I don't have time to help that person. I don't have time to do that. I can't do that. And so that to me is a lack of care and compassion for your fellow men or woman. And so, building trust and fostering it in our assemblies requires us to be able to show a genuine care for others. And why is trust so important? Well, because it's essential for effective relationships, whether in the workplace or personal life. It fosters engagement, productivity, and satisfaction. High trust environments lead to less stress and burnout, while also enhancing psychological safety, allowing individuals to express ideas and concerns without fear. Now, this is important too, because as strangers, well, we are all strangers to one another coming into this assembly. We don't know each other's backgrounds. We don't know, who anybody is. And so it's really important to start building. This is the foundation in which our assembly members are going to, have that be able to be trustworthy of each other. And that's going to build the effectiveness and the productivity in our assemblies, right? So when I go back to think, what we were just talking about before, how people are skeptical of getting involved and putting their time, energy, and resources, because that's a commodity for them. Time, energy, and resources is a commodity. And if I don't think I'm going to reap any kind of a reward for putting that forward, why would I want to get involved? And so, how do we build and foster an environment where people feel like their time, energy, and resources are going to be valued, and that they're going to be able to see some reward? It may not be instant. That's the other thing we have to get used to, is that there isn't going to be instant gratification, that this is going to take time and patience. And then the next things are key actions to build trust. Communicate openly. This is a big one, because I feel like sometimes I'll get emails from somebody. A member in my assembly sends me an email and it's attachment, and there's no words. It's just an attachment, and I open it up and I see it, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with this? Like, do you want me to share it out to the rest of the assembly? Do you want me to add this to our agenda? What is this for? And so there has to be good communication, and we have to encourage. Yeah.
I think that, like we said just a second ago, it's a philanthropic business. This is not just establishing the government again. It's not reconstructing just the government. It's not just putting the assembly together. This is a humanitarian work. It is a great work to, we keep saying the mission is to free all men from bondage. This is not, there's a lot of confusion. Tammy, how do we make people comprehend fully that this is not about replacing the other guys? This
Right.
isn't about firing a bunch of people and
Oh.
going in guns a-blazing and being like, we are the champions and you're going to do what we say. No, this is not what's going on. What's supposed to be going on is we're supposed to be warming their hearts, softening their hearts. We're supposed to be winning over their minds. We're supposed to be locking hands and hearts. It's supposed to be a heart and hand thing. You know, just for a moment, if I could just take us back 1 second to the corporate way is hearts and minds. Hearts and minds, okay? And they say things like, build better, build better. And they also say things like, because building better means that you just think you're better, okay? It's like winning, right? And then hearts and minds isn't action. And it isn't really, all that is thinking and feeling, okay?
Right.
So that's not how living men operate. The way living men operate is we put our hands and hearts together. We lock hands. When you lock hands with somebody, you just locked 30 trillion watts to 30 trillion watts. That wattage is powerful. But
Right.
when you just do ding and ding, then you're just thinking about it, but you're not acting.
Right, right. And it requires action. I will say that, here's a little bit of a different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
I agree that we need to be warming the hearts of our federal subcontractors, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
most of them are in roles and have no idea that that wasn't supposed to be the American government. They have no idea, right? And so we're coming in there with empathy for them. And so the conversation is going to look a little different than when you're angry and you're like, you're not supposed to be doing that, and that's evil, and blah, blah, blah. I do believe that after we have gently brought them the information,
Right.
what they do with that information obviously is entirely up to them and will determine, are you on the side of good or evil? Like, are you going to do the right thing, or are you going to continue down the path that is corrupt, manipulative, and deceitful? So
Right, because then they get to make a choice.
right.
But
But
when
one more thing is that I think
mm,
too is that it is our job, however, to
mm,
hold them accountable, because
yeah.
they are, after all, our employees. They work for us. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're not about, going in there and, overthrowing their government.
No.
That's not what this is about. This is about
Mm-hmm.
rebooting our self-governing government. It was the government for, of, and by the people. We have been missing in action. And
Mm-hmm.
when we say missing in action, I don't mean showing up as a warm body on a call. That's not, what we're talking about here. We're talking about being in real action, like doing
Right.
things that are going to be effective in your assembly. And
Right.
that requires, you to have some level of knowledge, but also to commit yourself to doing the work.
Right. But I think even before that, people need to know, what is the work going to be? It's not going to be fighting with people, because what's going on the landscape is a whole bunch of patriot groups being angry. Okay. And so they think that's what we are too. And that's not what this is. And if
No,
you're on an assembly and this is what you think, then you don't really know what's happening.
right. And
And
I
that
would say too, the people that are in your assemblies, okay, this is for all the ASNs out there on all the 50 state assemblies and in other countries.
mhm.
If you have people coming in and all they want to do is argue and cause, you know, be combative,
Mhm.
that is something that's familiar to you because you've been doing that your whole life. That is what the matrix feeds off of. That's what we describe as low vibrational energy. They're feeding what somebody called it the loosh or something along those lines, right? Is that they're feeding off of that negative energy. So you have to go and check yourself. If you are constantly being combative and you're arguing and the words that you're choosing when you're communicating with others is, I don't have to effing do that. I don't have time for that. Like that's not the kind of tone, the kind of attitude, and the kind of, um, uh, you know, what we're trying to convey here in our assemblies. Like when we
Well,
show
it
up
is
as
a
self,
business. Yeah, look, this is a business, okay? It is a philanthropic business. It's not one that you're getting paid for, and you're not used to that. You're not
right,
used to you're not used to going somewhere to do something that is for the good, for the greater good, unless you're being bribed by a church. Okay. Because people are like, oh, I've done that with my church and I've done this and that. Okay, yeah. But you could, because you felt like you had to get some points in or something because you're trying to go to heaven or whatever the confusion is. But why are you not doing it just for the love of the people? Oh, you'll do it for
right,
the love of money, but will you do it for the love of the people? You'll do it for the love of money, but you don't believe that people are worth anything. You know that I'm listening to assemblies across the country say to me that they don't, why are we saying that, Americans are so wealthy because they're not wealthy because they don't have any money in there. Like, I've actually had a guy from an assembly say, I'm the treasurer on this state and we don't have any money. And you're saying that we're wealthy. You're lying. And I'm like,
oh
okay,
God, oh God.
what are you talking about? I said, do you even know the value of the people? I said, you don't have people on your state? You don't have people that are alive on your land and soil? What are
This
you saying?
This is a hard concept, Neethi, for people to wrap their heads around. Now, if you were to back up 4 or 5 years ago for me, I was
Mm-hmm.
in the same boat. I remember one of the women on our assembly was trying to explain to me why mortgages were a fraud, right?
Mm.
And I wouldn't get it. I'm like, I don't get this because I'm going to a bank, I'm borrowing money. They actually paid the person money for the house that I purchased, so they got a check. How
Right.
is this a fraud? So it was really hard for me to wrap my head around it. And so, I would just say in that instance is that those people really it's going to take a little bit more time. And if I could get there, everybody else can get there too. And some people, maybe like yourself, Neethi, are a little, quicker on the uptake with those kinds of topics. I struggled with that one for a while, and I think a lot of people that, are just like, I was. But it takes a while. It's a process of undoing what we've been taught, right? You have to undo it and
Yeah.
and think forward. I like to keep things simple. And I love, Anna's, what is it? She uses Joe's Hamburger Shop. When she explained it in that way, it was then so much easier for me to understand. And then diving a little bit more into, the DTCC,
What's the DTCC?
the Depository Trust. I think it's Certificate Clearinghouse. I
Mm.
think that's what it stands for. But um, and I'm going to get this wrong. I'm trying to remember this guy's name, but there's a book on Scribd called
Okay.
The Domain of Disclosure, and anybody could go on. I think it's Scribd.com. If you look up and put in the search engine, the domain of disclosure, it's an excellent book and it's a free PDF. I mean, I think you have 30 days to subscribe and you can download as many PDF books as you want, but there's probably a good amount of them. I want to say the guy's name is Aaron Prince, but don't hold me to that. Um, and when I read that, I was like, oh, now I get this. Now I can understand this, this money scheme, right? Like this is a total scam. And but to get back to your original comment about how people, when you keep saying, do you have any idea how much you are worth? It's because people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that their energy, whether it's going to work and producing something, that's your commodity. That is your life force, your energy, and what you're putting into the world. And so generation,
It's what they're capitalizing on, guys.
yes, and generations
It's
of
why
our,
they created time. Sorry, Tammy, but it's why they created time.
yes, so that they could securitize your work energy, your
Measure.
energy in which you
It's
are
your
producing a product or a service, you
right.
know.
The whole clock is a measure of value of your time and your energy. And so that's how they had to put everything in the form of math, right? So
Right.
it's the metric they created
Yeah.
to capitalize on your
Yeah.
present,
And the other
on
thing,
your present moment. And they get you distracted with the past and the future to control your present.
yes. Yes. And if you think about this, when people are distressed, right? Or they've got anxiety, it's either for two reasons. One, they're either kicking themselves or beating themselves up for something that they've done in the past, or they're worried or anxious about and they're future tripping, right? Of things that may or may not happen in the future. And again, they're being robbed of living in the present. That's really
The
the
present is
whole structure of the matrix.
the gift that we have been given by our creator.
Yep, it's the precious
They are
present.
robbing you of your gift. And this is where it goes back to that video I was telling you that I got so offended by, where it immediately starts with, you know, God is going to break you and make you suffer and blah, 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 blah. And I was just listening to this crap and I was like, and then I'm just like, this is the problem. People are still locked up in this after they've declared and they're part of our assemblies and they're following, you know what I mean, like they're involved in our conversations as men and women who are declared on the land and soil. But they're so, I can't tell you, Tammy, how many people are like, well, I'm going to create my vendor account and my business is going to be, led by, you know they're so stuck on religion. It's going to be for the believers.
Well, I've
We
got people that are doing some kind of mission work and talking about an organization, a religious organization they belong to, that's doing mission work. And when I ask what's the mission work, they're like, oh, they're going to build, help the poor countries and help this and help that. And I'm thinking, this project is one of the biggest mission projects that you will ever be a part of, because it is going to free all mankind, and you won't need any churches to do missions. But
How many
everybody,
people want to take their look? How many people want their GFG money so they can go feed somebody? I'm like, why would you diminish them? You're going to
right,
get that and you're going to go and make everybody feel like you're better than them. And you
right.
don't realize how evil that is. It's evil for you to want to feed people and give them charity. That's evil.
Well, I mean,
You
I
should
would,
want to give them their
the
own
freedom that
GFG
you
account.
have.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, the attitude that you have to have is if I can do it, you
So
can
can
do it.
you. Yes,
But
absolutely.
if
It
you're
goes back to that lesson, like, teach a man, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. I mean, that is really the mentality of self-governing. And so all this,
but people literally, Tammy, This is what I'm saying. They're so stuck, and they will
Yes,
argue
they're in
you.
the box. They're
Yeah,
in the box. They're
they.
having a hard time thinking outside the box. I just had a
Yeah.
gentleman who hasn't been in an assembly meeting for 2 years now,
Hmm.
but will send me, really sweet text messages on holidays. And when I asked him where he's been, he said he spends most of his time helping good people to enjoy the later years of life. And then he says, later this year, I have big plans for our veterans, first responders, and law enforcement needing financial help. And I just think to myself, but they're going to free themselves if they declare themselves Americans. They're going to be free, and they'll have just the same amount of wealth as you do. So
Right.
there's no extra helping of them that you need to do. I mean, the only really great help that our veterans need is
It's for us to get our act together.
yes, and they need healing, right? They need
Yes.
real true healing, not this woo-woo, medications and, the
Yeah, that's the
bullshit.
real woo-woo. Okay, let's just define that.
Yes,
Because when we say woo-woo, we're talking about big pharma. We're not
yes,
talking about, sound healing and healing hands. We're talking
yeah,
about the pills and the potions and the poison, the poison and the fake
exactly.
food. Mm-mm.
Yep. Um,
Do we want
and
to go
and
back
I
to your
since we're talking
document?
about healing tables, I do want to put a shout out to one of our own, our ASN on Florida,
Mm,
um, Robert. Has tuberos sound tables. And if I could pull up his website, I'll put it in the chat for everybody. But my husband and I purchased one of those frequency tables, and we use it a lot.
mm.
So anyway, I digress. I just feel like anytime I can help a fellow ASN that's doing great work, I'd like to
Mm.
do that.
Well, I'm sorry, Tammy. I took you off of the topic of your document, but I wasn't really trying to do that. But when you go over the beginning of this document, we kind of get stuck right here because people are fearful. They're most fearful of changing their mind.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, or they're afraid of the unknown, right?
Mhm.
They're afraid of because we also haven't been taught how to have a healthy debate, right? A healthy conversation. Like if I disagree with you, what does that look like? And again, it goes back to our language with one another. How do we speak to one another if we're disagreeing? None of us, or I should say, very few of us, have had a healthy role model of what that looks like in our households. And so,
Mm.
that also is something for us to get used to, because it is important for us to be able to share our ideas, and that may be different from one another, or maybe the way Niti describes something is slightly different than the way I'm going to describe something, and it's fine nonetheless.
Yeah.
I respect her for her views and how she perceives things, and I know, Niti, you've shown me nothing but respect. So, and I
Yeah.
think that that's how this is going to work.
Yeah. No, people, listen, we have to, first of all, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yep.
I
Oh, I
mean,
don't like I don't like that analogy, but I understand what you're
okay,
saying.
there's more than one way to scramble eggs. Okay.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
better.
There's more than one way to scramble eggs. And every time that I talk about the scrambling eggs thing, I don't know if people are following exactly what I'm saying, but you know, I can scramble them in the pan. I can scramble them in a bowl. I can scramble them in a cup. I can do 10 different ways. I can season
Yeah.
them before I put them in the pan. I can season them in the pan. I can put fresh vegetables in it, or I could put dried seasoning on it, or like there's 25 million things that I can do to scrambled eggs. Okay. But if I'm doing something that I think is like, I'm telling you, I don't really know why you make scrambled eggs without bacon bits. Okay. I just don't get it.
Right.
But other people might not think bacon bits have anything to do with the scrambled eggs. But if you ever tried my scrambled eggs with the bacon bits, then you
Oh, yeah.
might only want them with the bacon bits. Okay. I don't know. So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. There's
There's
all
all these,
kinds, and there's so many varieties. And this is the beautiful thing. This is what I call the spice of life, right? Like
the
there's,
tapestry,
yeah,
and the people on the assembly are the different types of scrambled eggs.
right, right.
That's what we have to look
And
at.
the thing is this, Neeti, is that one
Mhm.
isn't better than the other.
It's not right or
Right.
wrong.
Right.
It's
It's
not
just
right or
different,
wrong.
but it's still the
Right.
same thing.
Right. And if you like to put broccoli in your scrambled eggs, I don't like it. Okay? But
I'm not gonna
whatever.
stop you from eating them.
I don't care if you want to do. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just
Yeah,
like, why would you do that to the broccoli? But okay, maybe you like that. That's fine. So this is where we have to. This is the attitude. This is the only level of debate. Uh, this is the only level of friction that we should ever reach about anything when we're having whenever you're having a discussion about whatever. If it goes beyond me and Tammy being able to joke about scrambled eggs, everything should be on that same temperature.
right.
Okay. And that is something that people know how to do when they're getting paid at work and they can't act crazy and they have to work with whoever, all the different people, because they're getting paid.
Right. There's that motivation, and we've discussed this a lot in our assembly. Is that look,
Mm.
we're all here as volunteers, you know, but we're not getting paid, and there's
Are
nothing.
we? Are we not? Because if you
Well,
get
we
this
will be.
government
Yes,
going, if you get this, it's not even about the money, people.
yes, yeah.
If
They're
you get
definitely
the benefit of
yes.
your assembly working, the benefit of your assembly working and not being usurped immediately by the corporatocracy again, if you can get that piece, the value of that
Oh,
to
it's
be able,
insurmountable. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
I
mean,
mean, y'all, what
that
we're
is
trying
just
to,
beautiful.
Tammy,
I wanna touch on this real quick.
yeah,
So, I was talking to, and I don't think she'll mind me using her name,
okay,
but, Paula on Louisiana. Love Paula, love the Louisiana Assembly, Jamie and Boyd, and I don't know anybody else but those 3, and, they're very lovely, very, high energy, and so I was talking to her, and we were talking about elections and, how the process in which they followed, and we were on the same wavelength as far as keeping things simple, and she had a really great perspective. And this is not just her perspective, but the perspective of their assembly, which I think is something that all of us can learn from. She said that they just got volunteers for each of their elected positions to step up and commit to taking on that position. And then after they were elected, then they were going to figure out what exactly they had to do. And so all the rest of us is waiting for us to have the full knowledge of what each of these positions responsibilities are and what we're supposed to do, and which is why I think it's taking us so long to get seated. But if we took that same mentality as the Louisiana Assembly and just said, hey, I think I'm going to be the court clerk, I'm going to be the justice, I'll be the coroner, and we just started figuring things and said, hey, I'll commit to this. And we dug our heels in and we made that commitment. And then we figured out, because that's what self-governing men and women do. When they're faced with something that they've never done before, they figure it out. Where there is a will, there is a way. And so that's what they're doing. We had talks about their drill assembly, and she said that they're still in the process of pulling it all together, and they're getting ready to do their mock trials. And so, they're coming along, but they didn't wait to have all the knowledge to then say, oh, I think I can do this. They took a leap of faith and said, hey, I'm going to figure this out. And yeah, I'm going to affirm that I'm committing to this position. And she told me that everybody is really taking it seriously. Like, and she made a good point. She goes, look, if there's no commitment, why would you ever want to put your time, energy, or resources into something that could be, would be, maybe? If you're committed to it, well, that's another story now, because now your your ass is on the line. Am I going to do a good job here? Like, I better do a good job here. Like, I committed to this. So I'm going to invest in putting my time, energy, and resources into being the best coroner, being the best justice I could possibly be. And so I think that's a completely different frame of mind. And I would love to see many more of our assemblies step up into that frame of mind, and take the advice and leadership of the Louisiana Assembly. I think it's beautiful. And I think all of our assemblies will shortly be seated if we took that approach.
Yeah, I think getting that cooperation, and without all of the constant interference, there's just constant interference, it feels like, and why?
Yeah.
But it's usually it's mostly the interference is because there are more people who think that we're taking over the other government.
Yeah, well, I guess because maybe they're still living in fear. Like, once you know
They're
what you're here to
100%
do,
terrified. Yes,
yeah,
they're
once you know
100%.
that what you're here to do, and that you're here to reboot something that went missing in action. It's been, like, laying in the closet.
It's a missing piece.
Yes, it's the missing piece. We're not here to usurp the government that's there now. We're here to
Work
work
with them.
together with them, and build bridges and utilize, because let's face it, it may not be perfect. And at times there's a lot of corruption, but let's face it. I mean, were we there paving roads? Were we there repairing, electrical lines when they came down after a storm? I mean, were we there? No, we weren't. It was our contractors doing that work. And so we have to honor the work that they've been doing. And we have to learn how to work with them and be a part of the conversation and the decision process.
Yeah. I think that I think all we needed for today was the beginning piece of this. And I think we should continue talking about this.
Yeah, and Barbara Lane was asking if she could get the document. So if you want to share that,
Is it okay?
Yeah, you could share it. Absolutely.
Great.
There's one thing that I want to say before we end, our podcast today, is I want everybody to think of, my family. We're big baseball fans, and I like to use baseball as an analogy here, because it's such, and I know that Neethi, you like to use the orchestra, right, and being in tune and stuff. But here's something to think about for those sports fans out there, and are also baseball fans, is for some of us who've been holding the line and wearing many hats, waiting for our assembly members to step up and take a position. It's like being on a baseball team and you're showing up for the game, but your teammates are sitting on the bench and expect you to play all the positions and play the game and win the game. Okay? And they're sitting there watching you play all the different positions like you're like a chicken with its head cut off. And they're sitting there waiting for you to win the game for them. And they haven't recognized that they're a part of the team and they have to take their part. There's no way we're going to have a pitcher be a catcher, the first baseman also play second base. You work together as a team with each of our respective positions. And so if you're sitting there watching your assembly members do all the work and you're sitting on the sidelines and letting it and just watching it, that's not fair. That is not what being a part of an assembly, being a member of your assembly means. That you're getting in the game and you're like, hey, put me in, coach. I'll play any position you need me to play. That's the attitude we've got to have. And it doesn't matter if you don't have all the knowledge, you'll figure it out. It'll come with time. We're all learning on the job, and that's okay. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. No, it's true. I think that's a good analogy. And, I really appreciate you always committing and making the time to join me, Tammy. And I look really forward to going over the rest of that document next week. You guys, I'm gonna post it on my Telegram channel, so make sure you check there to get it. And I'll see if I can put it in the show notes, but I don't know if it lets me put attachments like that. But I'll put the link to the Telegram so anybody can go there and get it. And
and if they want to email me, it's just tammyannehealy@proton.me.
And her email is definitely in the show notes every single week. Every week.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if you want it, I can also send it to your email too.
Perfect. Well, hey, friends, we will look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. And at 3:00 today, Eastern Standard Time, I'm having a conversation because, I'm doing my little back-to-backs, right? So today we're doing Healing with Jamie. So join me over there if you're interested in learning about healing naturally at 3:00 Eastern Standard. And Tammy, thank you once again. And you guys will be back next Tuesday, continuing this conversation of, fortifying our assemblies, because that's what we really need right now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Neethi. And I'll look forward to watching the healing episode with, you're talking about Jamie Morgan, right?
Jamie Morgan.
Yeah,
yes.
Beautiful. I love that family. They're true patriots through and through, and they have I think maybe the first ever land-born baby on this country. So
I know. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the very first one, but I know that she did a lotus birth, and I know, it's going to be really fun. I can't wait to talk with her. So
yeah, I look forward to seeing that. And, I look forward to carrying on this conversation, next week with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And hey, friends, we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Oh, Eastern. Oh.